Welcome, everyone. Today we're going to explore something really fascinating, the history between two huge Asian powers,
Yeah.
China and Japan.
It's a relationship with some real twists and turns.
Exactly. And there's this central puzzle, right? For like 2,000 years, one of them just never invaded the other.
But the opposite. That's a very different story.
So we want to get past the usual headlines, maybe uncover some surprising stuff, periods of peace you don't often hear about.
Mm-hmm. Understand the deeper current.
Okay, let's unpack this. So let's start with that big fact. It's pretty startling when you first hear it.
It really is.
For 2,000 years, China itself never mounted an invasion of Japan. Not one.
Now, people might immediately think, wait, what about the Mongols?
Right, good point. And yes, 1274, 1281, the Mongols were ruling China then, and they did try to invade Japan.
Famously failed, didn't they? The whole divine wind story.
The kamikaze, yeah. Huge storms wrecked the fleets both times. But the key thing is, that wasn't the Chinese state, the Han Chinese state, initiating it. It was the Mongol Empire.
Which is a crucial distinction. And what's fascinating here, historically speaking, is just how unique that non-aggression from the larger power is.
You don't see it often.
Not really, especially with neighbors. You know, big empires tend to expand. But China's approach to Japan seems to have been different for a very long time. More about maybe cultural influence, sort of hierarchy.
Less about grabbing territory by force.
Exactly. It's quite a contrast to, say, a lot of European history.
Okay, so that's China's side for much of history. But Japan's interactions with China look quite different, especially later on.
Very different.
The first sort of major attempt we see is, what, 1592? Hideyoshi.
Yeah, Hideyoshi's grand ambition. He was the regent then.
Yeah, and he had this huge plan, didn't he? Invade Korea first, then use that as a launchpad to go into China.
That was incredibly ambitious. Didn't work out, of course. He died in 1598. The whole thing collapsed.
But it showed a new kind of thinking, maybe. A willingness to project power outwards towards the mainland.
It certainly did. And that wasn't, the end of it.
No, far from it. Fast forward a few centuries, and Japan invades China multiple times, starting around 1894 and then, of course, through World War II.
A really brutal period. And this imbalance, this lack of invasion from China for millennia versus repeated invasions by Japan later on.
Yeah.
That's absolutely critical.
It has to shape how they see each other.
Right.
National memory, strategic thinking, all of that.
Without a doubt. It feeds into their narratives, maybe even their modern anxieties.
But here's the thing that often gets lost in focusing on those conflicts. There was this incredibly long stretch of peace.
A really remarkable era.
Between these two civilizations, both deeply shaped by Confucianism, they were actually at peace for most of those 2,000 years.
It's quite stunning when you frame it like that.
Think about, like you said, Europe, Britain, and France. They seem to be fighting almost every other year for centuries.
Constantly.
But China and Japan, it was more about monks traveling back and forth, bringing calligraphy, new ideas.
Cultural exchange, philosophical discussions, not armies crossing borders.
And we're talking a long time, specifically, like, from 1368, when the Ming Dynasty starts,
Right.
all the way until basically 1839. That's when the British show up, big time in the Pearl River. The first Opium War kicks off.
So nearly 500 years.
Yeah, almost half a millennium. And apart from that brief Hideyoshi thing, no war between them in that whole period.
That's what some historians call the Confucian peace.
Explain that a bit more. What made it work?
Well, it wasn't just, not fighting. It seems to have been a kind of active system based on Confucian ideas about order, hierarchy.
China as the sort of central senior state.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
Receiving symbolic tribute, engaging in ritualized trade. It wasn't equality, but it provided a framework, a stable one.
So it managed the relationship without needing big wars.
For centuries, yes. It was a surprisingly effective way to keep the regional peace built on shared cultural understanding rather than just military balance.
Okay, so if this system worked for so long, what broke it? What changed?
Well, you mentioned 1839, the arrival of the West. That seems to be the major turning point.
The Opium War, the increasing pressure from European powers?
Exactly. It completely disrupted the old dynamics in East Asia. And this external shock spurred Japan onto this incredibly rapid path of modernization.
The Meiji Restoration, starting 1868, wow, they moved fast.
Astonishingly fast. And their approach was, frankly, quite brilliant strategically.
What did they do?
In 1871, they sent out the Iwakura mission. Top government ministers, basically.
Right, I've heard of this. They went everywhere, didn't they?
For 18 months. Traveled the U.S., Europe, studying everything. Who has the best navy, the best banking system, best constitution, best universities, best army?
Just soaked it all up.
And then they went home and actually implemented it. Peacefully, for the most part. There was only one significant rebellion, the Satsuma Rebellion in 77.
That's amazing success for such a massive transformation.
It really was, which, leads to a really important question.
Which is?
What happens when a nation modernizes that quickly, that successfully, especially its military and industry? Where does that energy go?
Does it have to lead outwards to expansion?
That's the critical question it raises.
And in Japan's case, the outcome was, well, pretty stark.
Tragic, really.
Soon after industrializing, 1894, they attacked China.
Mm-hmm.
There's that story, I think Ezra Vogel recounts it, about a conversation between diplomats around that time.
Yes, a very telling one.
The Chinese diplomat, apparently just devastated, asks the Japanese diplomat something like, why? Why attack us? We're fellow Asians. The Europeans are invading us.
And the response?
The Japanese diplomat apparently just said, quite bluntly, I'm sorry, but we've joined their club.
Chilling. Their club, meaning the Western imperial powers.
Yeah. Japan industrialized, modernized, and essentially signed up for the Imperial Club rules of the time, which often meant demonstrating strength through conquest.
A complete reversal from the centuries of Confucian peace.
So reflecting on all that history brings us inevitably to today, to say 2025. How do nations in Asia navigate things now?
Especially with rising tensions, shifting global power.
Right. Does this history offer any path forward?
The suggestion we're exploring is, maybe it does. Maybe more diplomacy, more unity between China, Japan, Korea, the ASEAN nations.
Less division encouraged by outside powers.
That's the idea. And look, the assertion here is pretty direct. China's not going to invade Japan, period. There's just no logical reason, no compelling threat driving that.
The strategic calculus doesn't support it.
And think about the upside of cooperation. If you combine Japanese know-how, Korean tech, Chinese scale, ASEAN's dynamism...
The economic potential is enormous, unmatched, really.
They could, basically dominate the world economy.
And that long history, the Confucian piece, it's not just history. It shows it can be done. Cooperation's stable frameworks, they've existed before between these powers.
It's proof of concept almost, that cooperation brings huge benefits, way more than division.
Absolutely. It underlines the value of building those frameworks again.
Which really puts the focus back on diplomacy, doesn't it?
It has to. Sitting down at a table, having the tough conversations, it sounds simple maybe, but compare that to the alternative.
Military buildups, constant tension.
Which costs, what, trillions of dollars globally every year. Diplomacy is just, a table and two chairs, relatively speaking.
And think about the kind of conversation. Imagine Japan's foreign minister sitting down with Wang Yi, China's foreign minister.
And asking directly.
Yes, saying, look, you're huge, 10 times our size. We're neighbors. How can we feel secure? How can we build trust?
Getting a real answer to that question, that's constructive. Way better than just guessing intentions or posturing.
It's like Europeans asking Mr. Putin, post-Ukraine, okay, how do you convince us you won't invade someone else? What reassurances can you offer? Hearing the answer matters.
So it's been quite a journey we've traced here. Millennia of this unique peace.
The Confucian peace, yeah.
Then this sharp turn towards conflict, driven by modernization and global shifts.
Joining the Imperial Club.
And now this potential pivot back towards, hopefully, diplomacy and shared interests.
The history really does underscore how powerful, sustained diplomatic effort can be. It shows that relationships aren't fixed. They can be reshaped away from conflict if there's the will.
It moves us beyond simple ideas of, inevitable clashes.
Definitely.
So thinking about all this, the long peace, the imperial turn, the modern context, what do you think really pushes nations towards conflict or cooperation today? Is it still about culture or more about economic goals? Or maybe outside pressures?
That's the multi-trillion-dollar question, isn't it? Probably a mix of all three.
Something for all of us to think about. If you found this exploration interesting, and we certainly did,
Hope so.
We'd really appreciate it if you hit that like button. It helps others find this content.
And for more discussions like this, looking at global affairs and history,
make sure to subscribe to the Geopolitics Gazette channel.
We're always keen to hear what you think, too.
Absolutely. Let us know your thoughts, your perspectives, any suggestions you have down in the comments. We do read them.